I'm Chosen Architect, and this is All the Mods 9 to the Sky. So jumping back into some more All the Mods 9, today we are going to dabble a little bit into Blood Magic. And that's primarily because it's going to be one of the tougher magic mods that we actually need to go through in order to complete the All the Mods star. Now when I say difficult, it's not difficult that it's like hard to do. It's difficult because, well, it does require a bit of progression to get through. And the one thing that I'm sure everyone loves about Blood Magic is the time that it takes to craft a lot of the things from within it. And also the fact that you stand in one spot poking yourself throughout the entire part of the early game. Now, last episode we went through Botania, and I also went ahead and made a Flugel Tiara. This is actually how you could get some sort of creative flight through Botania itself, but I'm using it mostly for cosmetics because you can apply different effects to it in order to get different types of wings. So if you wanted wings, you can definitely get it, and I have one that just has one solo wing. And yes, they're all anime references. So yes, as I mentioned, we are on our path through the magic mod sections. And this means that I just last episode went through the entire progression of Botania. And so today, Blood Magic is going to be the sole thing that we are going to get all the way through, or at least up through to the tier 4 altar, which is what's required of us to complete the ATM star, which is pretty nice considering in All the Mods 9 you had to go through some extensive progression inside of Blood Magic, which was honestly one of my least favorite parts of that entire pack. This one, however, has made it a lot easier, as you only have to work your way towards a demonic slate, meaning that you just need a tier 4 altar. That means you don't have to dungeon crawl for some RNG to be able to get some late game materials from a randomized dungeon. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and prep for the idea that we are going to max out our build at a tier 4 altar, meaning that I'm going to need to go 3 blocks up because this multi-block is going to extend as we progress through time. And I'm going to place it here on my Skulk Island. I think that's going to be really awesome to have this set up here. It's going to fit very well into this dark theme. So now if you're a first timer getting into Blood Magic, I highly recommend reading your book. The Sanguine Syntemic? I think that's right. But you definitely want to read this thing. It will actually show you all of the different tiers of your Blood Magic, all the stuff, just pretty much everything that has to do with this mod is packed inside of here with tons of really good descriptions on everything. Now, this is everyone's favorite part, right? Filling the blood altar. And we've already made this before and we used it ever so slightly. And it is that, well, you have to attack yourself with a sacrificial knife in order to fill this with life essence. Now we're gonna have to do this until we get to at least a tier 2 altar, and then I want to switch over to mobs. Now the tier 4 altar is going to look very much like you see here. So I have this raised up, so it's basically 3 levels up, just like I shown, with spaces in between. And all of this cobblestone is going to be replaced with actual rune blocks that we're going to need to perform some different augments that are going to allow us to interact with the blood altar a bit more effectively. But that, of course, is going to come with a bit of time. But it is nice to go ahead and at least build your outline to make the exchanging of all of the blocks easier, and you can also already start to sort of see the structure as you continue to progress. So now there's several things that we're going to be doing that are going to actually take a little bit of time early on, and that's just really all it is just time, which in my opinion is kind of unfortunate. So this process right here is one of those things, and we can actually accelerate this with our time in the bottle. And this is going to be a case where we'll save a ton of time if we actually do that. And you can see I just crafted myself up a weak blood orb. That is one of the first things that we need to do in order to start making blank runes, which I'm about to start working on. Now, some things I will suggest, definitely get yourself regeneration. You have to have regeneration. This will be a really rough time if you do not have some sort of regeneration going on. Other things that'll definitely help is if you've cooked up food that has nourishment on it, meaning that while you're regenerating, you actually will not lose hunger. Or you can definitely get yourself a backpack and make sure that you have the advanced feeding upgrade in here and getting yourself some sort of food that's going to sustain your saturation. Now, the next major thing that we are going to need is going to be these blank slates, as this is what's going to allow us to make blank runes, which is what we're going to use in all the places that you see cobblestone, and which is essentially the only way for us to progress. And so you want to automate this process as soon as possible. So here I've placed down 2 barrels that are personal chests for Mekanism. This really doesn't matter, but what matters is how you actually send the items into the altar. So I'm going to utilize an item transporter, and these things are really, really cool, as these are going to allow us to do this operation that you see right here, and are going to allow us to automate them. That's because the item transporters, believe it or not, have the ability to regulate items, which you may not have known, which is a very, very nice feature specifically for what we're about to do. You can see this button right here. It says regulation mode, and you also have filters built within them. This allows us to transport an item from one block directly to another one within a 1 block space. So how exactly do we go about regulating? Well, we just have to turn regulation mode on, put this to whitelist, and then we're going to only put 1 in. And by doing this, that means that when I send an entire stack of this stone over here, when I activate this, it's only going to allow 1 into this particular inventory at any given moment, which is fantastic. But we also end up with this problem. Notice how that just pulls the items directly through. We don't want that happening. So if I go ahead and I block that off, what we can do is on the item transporter here, we can set this to a whitelist and make sure that it can only pull out this particular slate. This is very helpful for early on automation. So now if I put a stack of stone in here, it's going to work 1 at a time, and it's going to work its way through all this stone. Keep in mind though, the whole time it's doing this early game stuff, we're going to have to sit here and make sure we're keeping our altar filled. But there we go. We've already automated now the blank slate process. Right now, I've crafted up now 32 of these, or technically 33 because of our first one that we used to make our filter. Now, to be able to upgrade even further, we just simply need to now craft all of the blink runes, and this will get us to a tier 2 altar. So that is going to be our next step. So we need 8 of these in order to make that tier 2 altar. And so it's as simple as placing that in. We have that now done, and then I can use, for example, an exchanging gadget, right? So building gadgets, I should have my exchanging gadget in here. I just probably overlooked it. There it is. And so yes, I can take this now, place it at least in one spot, and then shift right click, and all of these I can now exchange, just like so. So that makes it a lot easier having it cobblestone. That way you don't have to hand break all of these. You can just simply place them in like this. So now, even though we can't see what altar tier we're at, we are technically at a tier 2, because doing this right here allows us to be able to craft up tier 2 items, and is the only requirement to get to this point. Now, if we want to be able to see our tier, we technically need to make ourselves an alchemistry table, and this will allow us to make some arcane ashes to do one of our first little rituals. And so inside of our alchemistry table, we just need to toss in a few of these items, and we are going to need a orb. So our actual blood orb. So back into blood magic, which we had it in here, by the way, for all of our crafting. So perfect. Weak blood orb. We place that inside of here, and it does say soul network, insufficient blood, because this is going to pull from that. So to be able to put blood in here, we can just right click this, and that will end up filling our soul network, which, by the way, we can't exactly see just yet, but we will be able to see how much is in our network as soon as we finish up these crafts. Perfect. We now have arcane ashes, but there is another craft that we're going to have to do in here in order to be able to make a tablet that allows us to see more information. And so to do this, we just simply need a blank slate, some redstone, and our arcane ashes. We place that down, right click it with redstone to change it into a different ritual, and then we right click the slate on here. And this is how we're going to get ourselves a divination sigil, which will allow us to not only see the tier of our altar here, but also will allow us to peer into our soul network. And if we right click, we can now see how much is actively in our soul network. And then of course, when we look here, you can see in the top left how much is in here and also what tier we're currently on. And now that we've hit tier 2 of our altar, that means we can now upgrade from, well, hurting ourselves into actually hurting mobs. So I'm going to place this in our altar, and it's going to take about 3,000 life points in order to actually do this. So 3 buckets of the life essence here. And that should give us a new dagger that will pretty much insta-kill the mobs that we can set up on top of here. And that leads me into another sort of situation. I need to get my mob farms and my mobs to basically end up over here. And there's a cool way that we can actually set that up. First, let me grab my new sacrifice dagger. Ooh, this thing is nice. Now, the way I want to move the mobs is through warp plates, and this is going to be pretty nifty. So if I go ahead and I place a block right above this, I should be able to place a warp plate directly on top. And what we can do is take mobs from our mob farm and essentially warp them to the position right here on the warp plate. And before I fully set that up, I definitely want to make sure that my chamber here is going to be safe. And so I've placed in some slabs just to make sure that the little small mobs that can spawn here, making sure that they can't escape. So we have this little plate here, and what I can do is I should be able to let this generate now, and it'll generate an attuned shard. Now what should happen is if we go ahead and place this down here, I can actually take this attuned shard out, place this one in, and now when I stand on this plate, it teleports me to this location. The cool thing is it also does this for entities. And so now what I kind of want to do is replace my mob masher that's over here. And instead, I want my mobs to be teleported into this warp plate. So let's go ahead and try this. I'm going to have this broken, just like that. And I'm going to place in a warp plate here instead. And then I'm just going to re-put in that new shard. By the way, this generates a new one with a different code every time. But this should now teleport me into this chamber like this. And that means all mobs that go in here. So now when I turn this back on, I'm kind of worried about this, but now when I turn this back on, getting all of this going and turn the lights back off, these mobs should now end up on this plate and they should teleport on. However, slimes I think are going to be the one thing that I won't be able to handle. And not these little slimes, the big slimes. I'll kind of just need to take things one step at a time. But notice right here, they are all getting teleported. And the cool thing about this dagger is I can then just right click once and it just kills them instantaneously. Now, this should be filling up. You can see right here, is it filling up? It doesn't look like it is. There it is. Oh, it is. You can see right there. It is now completely filled. So darn cool. And so in the back here, I also have set up an interface with an item collector that will essentially collect the mob drops as they drop, which they definitely will because these mobs will end up cramming. Now, funny enough, in the blood magic section, we ended up getting an unobtainium bee spawn egg, which I just find absolutely hilarious. But anyways, there's a lot of cool things that you can actually accept here. And I did just get a demonic will, which is going to be something where I actually have to do. So this will is going to be 100% worth it. Now, as I just found out, one of the worst parts about this whole farm here is the ender tots. I really wish they just didn't spawn. So now with this setup, my main primary goal is to try and upgrade all of these runes that you see down here to sacrifice runes, which means getting into the next tier of slate. So while I'm actively taking all of these mobs out one by one, it's not filling this up very, very quickly. So to be able to get that filled up quickly, we are going to have to upgrade our runes and do our first little augment. And this right here converts this into a reinforced slate, which I will then go ahead and replace in our filter here. And so now I should be able to place these in and also add one over here to the regulation. And so I can toss that in. Or actually, no, it's a regular slate that goes in here, right? Regular slate that goes in the regulator. Perfect. And then I can toss in as many as I need. For example, I can put in 15, and that's going to take a little bit of time, but as soon as we have one of those new slates, we can then start to use that to make new runes. Oh, and by the way, we're also going to need to upgrade our blood orb. We're going to have to get that to a different tier. This is it. This is the progression. Literally, it just keeps going on right here while you stand here for quite a while. Oh, and by the way, that was not supposed to be gold. Oh, goodness. It's supposed to be a redstone block. There we go. I have no idea what that creeper was. Now, funny enough, with this particular setup going on here, and the fact that we have now 8 of these surrounding this, we're now producing on each kill, it seems to be about, if I did the math right, 666 life essence. Yeah, of course that's the number. But that does appear to be what it is currently at with this particular setup. Now, funny enough, to be able to get up to tier 3, we just simply need to exchange all of these out with slates, and that is 20 of them. And then the caps here, they just get exchanged out for glowstone blocks. And so this tier is actually pretty straightforward to get to. Going to tier 2 and to tier 3, not too difficult. Now, tier 4 that's where things are going to get a little bit more interesting. But just to be able to show that we are now at tier 3, you can see hovering over this, that is where we currently stand. And so to make the tier 3 blood orb, this is actually going to cost quite a bit of life essence, 25,000, and this only holds 10,000. So yeah, it only holds 10 buckets, but we need 25 buckets. So I'm gonna have to constantly sit here and make sure that this stays filled. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a problem, and it'll actually start to lose progress if we can't keep up. So that will pose a little bit of a problem. Hopefully that doesn't happen, and I can actually keep up with this. It's seeming to be that might not be the case. Oh boy. Yeah, we're keeping up for sure. And this is what it looks like to lose progress. Yeah, we definitely can't keep up. But I should be able to keep up by doing this, maybe a combo of the both, in between letting these mobs spawn. Oh man, this is definitely a trial, but it's kind of what it's all about. Like, there is a way to actually build up the capacity of the internal storage here, though. It just takes a little bit of time to just get all of these slates up and running. They take quite a bit of time, but here we go. We now have ourselves a Magician's Blood Orb. So it's now time to start actually working on the tier 4, and this will require us to get into rituals. To be able to actually get the caps that we're going to need, well, we're going to have to kind of start working towards the ritual production. And so I've already been kind of working on that. I've been making a bunch of slates, and now we need to actually make our ritual diviner. So this is going to require a set of a couple of different items that need to be converted over into their individual inscription tools. One being magma cream, we also have obsidian, and then we have lapis and also a ghast tear. And make sure whatever you're placing your obsidian in that you don't accidentally place an obsidian furnace in instead. They look identical. So now that I have all of those, the ritual diviner is the next step. Now, things are going to get kind of interesting from here, because what I need to do is dive into the book, and this is where we're going to find the edge of the hidden realm. And you can search this inside of your book just by going to the index here and search hidden, and we'll find that right there. So this tells me how many total runes I'm going to need, and of course that also involves a master rune. So we're going to need 36, but we're actually going to need a total of 40. So now that I have enough runes and I have all of the ritual stones I'm going to need, I then need to figure out where I'm going to place this and place my master ritual stone. Then I can shift right click until we find the edge of the hidden realm in our selection, and then I should be able to thus right click this, and this is going to auto build using the runes that we have and auto color them to their correct color. Now we're still not done yet, because we still need a weak activation crystal to be able to activate this, and we're also going to need 80,000 LP stored in our life network. So we should be able to place our lava crystal inside of here to get our weak activation crystal, and of course just making sure that all of this is taken care of, making sure we have enough blood in here. Sorry, not blood, life essence. And voila, there we go. We now have our crystal. Now, a way that we can actually put blood into or life essence into our soul network is by right clicking, but we can also place it right here. And this is going to drain what is actively inside of here, and we'll also store it. We should be able to see our life essence going up. So I now should have enough inside of my LP network. You can see I'm at 87,000, which is just enough. And I should now be able to right click our master ritual stone with this. Shift right click or right click. A rush of energy flows through the ritual, and there we go. This thing right here is so interesting. The dungeons built within Blood Magic exists right here, and we just want to make sure we have some way of setting a location inside, whether that's via the dislocator or the waystone. And I should be able to just right click. And here we are. We are in this dungeon. Now, there are keys that we can use in this dungeon, but my goal is that we'll hopefully be able to find the things we need. So this place is very cool. This is a Blood Magic. So just call it Blood Magic. And I think this is the realm of the, I've already forgotten the name of what it's called. This thing, the edge of the hidden realm. So the edge. Inside of here, we get a key, which is one of our first keys. I'm just going to open this room and hope that it's a good room. Looks like it might be a good room, but this is what we need right here. The Tau fruit. That's the whole reason we're going here, because this is what pretty much gates us through this whole section here. And I didn't bring anything to light things up. So we just need to walk through here and open up chests. Yes. But that one thing that we got right here, the Taiyu fruit, that's all we really need. And so now we could technically leave. Let's see, what does this give us? Fire protection? Yeah, this fruit right here, it's all I wanted. So yes, you can potentially find keys, but you can actually craft keys to get access to any of these other rooms, which we can worry about later on. But as of right now, I got what I need, so it's time to head out. Now, if you somehow didn't actually find this fruit and you need to unlock more doors, you can actually craft these iron keys by utilizing the Hell Forge. And we've not touched on this any just yet, but this is a way that you can actually make keys. And now this next part is to actually grow this fruit and to have it convert into the thing we actually need, which is a saturated version of it. And it's a weird growing mechanic where we actually place it down in here, but we need a mob to be in here. For example, a cow. And I want to kind of force it directly on top where this cow is at. So that way, whenever this does inevitably grow, it will actually take some life from this cow and it will saturate it. Kind of interesting. Now, I think we can use bone meal to grow this. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see, try. No, you cannot use bone meal on this. Oh, but the shift and growing does work. And look at that. It has turned into the saturated version. So yes, you can grow it. And it is already, by the way, turned into the saturated form. I think we're going to need another mob. Oh boy, that is interesting. So yes, I guess for it to actually fully grow, we still need more. Okay, so another cow it is. Never mind, I just had a cow here and it ended up working. Okay, well, I get to save my cow then. So now that I have a saturated version of this, we should be able to just right click to harvest it. And it is now a saturated version of this crop, by the way. So when it does grow up, we'll end up just getting more of it, and you don't need an animal for that to happen. And now we get into the next tier slate, which is the imbued slate, and that is what I'm currently working on right now. And the next thing we need to do is to make the alchemical reaction chamber, which does require this, that a new imbued slate. And once we have this, we can actually make the caps and get ourselves into the final tier of this particular episode, which is going to be up to tier 4, which is all that's required for in-game. Now with the alchemical reaction chamber made, we can go ahead and place this bad boy down, and we are going to need to now take our fruit and put it through here with the sanguine retriever. I think that's what it's called. But notice, by the way, this is going to require us to progress through the Tartaric sort of Hellforge thing, and it does look like we can actually get through here with a regular common. And this is where these wills are actually going to come into play, because once we have ourselves a Hellforge, to get started, we need to place some will in here, and we need to technically make our first like sort of weapon that allows us to get more will. And that requires this little setup right here. So if we can go ahead and make a petty version of the Tartaric, a very, very basic one, we can actually start to farm this. And this crafting operation looks a little bit like this. We're going to see this go up. You have to have a little bit of will in a base will. And if you don't already have a base will, you didn't get one from crafting, you can actually get one by making a snare. And you'll basically shoot that snare right here, the soul snare. You'll shoot that onto a mob. And then once you see some particles, you can kill it with a normal sword. And that should definitely get you going. But for right now, what I need to do is combine this petty Tartaric with an iron sword, and this will get us a sword that should just drop will for us. Now that I have this done, I need to make another Tartaric. There's actually going to be quite a bit of Tartaric crafting. Now, the cool part about having the Tartaric is whenever you kill mobs, for example, and you pick up the will, instead of getting physical will, you'll actually get will directly into your Tartaric. And there we go. And I've started a mess. And also, any will that you've gotten thus far, you can go ahead and actually drop it, and this will collect into your Tartaric. So now I should be able to craft up the next tier, which is going to utilize this petty that we have here. And we need to make sure we have enough will. So this is where you actually will utilize the petty Tartaric. We have 2 of them that actually are full, but you can actually transfer this will over, for example, into this lesser Tartaric. And then we need to take that to the common, and that's the tier where we need to be at. To transfer the will over, we should be able to shift right click and notice that that is transferring over, but I don't want it to actually go into this one. Let's go ahead and take this out. I want it to transfer into this, and you can see it is now actively doing that. So perfect. So once we have this all set up, we can start to use the will inside of these Tartarics. And now to be able to actually upgrade to the common Tartaric, I've said Tartaric quite a bit. The minimum will that we actually need is going to be 240. So before I can even do this craft, I have to make sure that will value at least is at 240, but it's only going to consume 50 for the craft. So yet again, as you can see, I just basically don't leave this spot throughout the entire playthrough of Blood Magic. So here we go. Time to move up into the next tier common Tartaric. Oh boy. This is a lot. So lesser Tartaric, and then diamond, and last but not least an imbuement. That should be enough. We have 250, we needed 240, and there we go. So now we have a common, and so now I can move all of this over into the common, and now we can actually craft the component we need to get the caps on. And this one needs 350 will. So yeah, I'm gonna be sitting here taking out some monsters for a bit. So perfect. I now have everything needed to be able to craft that final component, which will get us into tier 4, by the way, which unlocks a lot of the automation ability of this. So you really don't get it until tier 4. So that is something to keep in mind. So this needs to go in here. And then what we're going to do is take our saturated. This also happens still. I'm going to take our saturated, put it in here, and that is going to hopefully get us enough. If not, we're going to have to wait for another one to grow. But there we go. Just on our first one alone, we got the bonus, which is only a 20% chance of getting this, by the way. You can see it's a 20% chance to get the 2. And we just got it on at least 2 of those, which is perfect because we needed that in order to make our next step, which I don't think we needed all of these, but this makes 8 of these large bloodstone bricks. Oh, and that's all we needed. And I like to, you know, I'm going to leave them regular bloodstone bricks, but this is the caps that go on here to make this a tier 4. And the one thing that gates you from getting to this point. So there we go. So now I have this, and all I have to do now is just craft up enough of the runes to fulfill the rest of this structure. And there we go. There's the 28 that's needed. And for some reason, tier 3 was like, hey, you need to craft 28, but you need 28 for the tier 4. This one, not 48. 48 in total, probably. And so I might have to make more runes. I really don't like how the quest is set up for this particular section, but specifically because it wants you to have all regular blink runes. And so there we go. We should now be exactly where I said, at a tier 4. And just you see there, we are now at a tier 4 altar. And so now we have the final thing needed here, and that is the acceleration runes. So these acceleration runes require a speed rune, but also require a demonic slate, which is at the tier 4, which is what we're currently at. So we should be able to easily do this now. All I'm going to need is at least, it looks like 4. So we need 4 regular speed runes and then just 1 of these demonic slates. Well, technically 4 of those demonic slates, because we're gonna need 4 of these at least to make 1 star. And there we go. This is all I needed. Perfect. And I ended up crafting 4 of them all in one go. And I think that is it for crafting this. Oh, that's right. We do need to also level up our blood orb, which is going to require one of those weak shards. Look at that. And so this is also going to be another fairly easy craft. Just got to make sure I keep up with this. And then we're almost done with this whole blood magic section. And voila, a master's blood orb. And this now should be it to make the 4 acceleration that we need. 2, 3. I just need buckets, apparently. That's easy. And 4. Nice. And that's exactly what we need to make the Wither's Compass. Everything else in this list is insanely easy to get. And that, my friends, was blood magic in a nutshell. Because honestly, after tier 4, the only thing you gain access to is a way to now automate the blood that you see behind me, making getting future runes a whole lot easier. But man, it does require quite a bit of just manual effort before you can even automate this. Ah, man. One of these days, somebody's going to make a quality of life mod that makes just the automation a little bit easier. But until then, this is how you get into blood magic. And guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hopefully you learned something new. Of course, if you did, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and well, give this video a huge thumbs up. It takes a tremendous amount of time to record these episodes, especially on episodes like this where the progression is so darn grindy. And well, guys, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Landon. Thank you so much for your amazing support by choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. Also gaining access to the supporter servers and getting access to this particular supporter server, the All the Mods 9 one, to the sky. So guys, I would love to see you over there or just over on the Discord, or you can check me out over on Twitch and we can hang out on Twitch as well. So if that's something you're interested in, you can find it all linked down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's now time for me to say goodbye. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye!